right, so welcome, folks. This is the Sunday afternoon call. It's 4 o'clock in Thai time. The weather here is just recovering from having rain today. Friday we were out of power all day long. Let's hope that today's power is good. They normally take off the power during the week. They don't take it down during the weekend unless a tree falls on something. So, Ivan, tell us what you are questioning today.
I was just thinking about Subha meditation. I think some people call it the body contemplation. Maybe there's a difference. You did mention Bhikkhu Buddhadasa said the Buddha only teach anapanasati. So I think that was initially he did kind of teach Asubha, right? But maybe it's not effective. That's why he changed.
Yes, okay, that's an interesting point. There is a sutta, I forget which one, that Ajahn Chah was mentioning, and that this was in his early practice when he was doing the charnel ground meditations. Now, in fact, the charnel ground is sort of a let us say a cemetery where they don't bury the bodies. In the time of the Buddha, they just dumped the bodies in this particular place, and so they were in all stages of decomposition. And so the Buddha left a group of monks to practice that, staying in the charnel ground, and noticing the various stages of decomposition of the human body, which would be from, by the time that they reached the cemetery, they were either livid or bloated, and then the decay starts. And then you can see as the meat is eaten away by insects, birds, and things, it gets down to the sinew. And then from the sinew, it goes down to actually the sinew breaking down, and so that the bones are completely exposed, and then the bones become separated. Now, that system of decay that I was just mentioning, there's actually 10. And so some wise guy, about 1,000 years after the Buddha, decided that there were 10 stages of this decomposition. So there's 10 different meditations. But the reality is that in fact, you can sit and watch one body decompose, fall apart, down to bones and then scattered bones. And that was especially true because in those days there were what you would call rag pickers. Because instead of embalming the bodies, they would wrap them in some sort of cloth in thin strips. And that the monks themselves would take some of these strips of cloth, that in fact the robe itself is in a particular design, and whether it's a small robe for a child or a huge robe, even as many as 220 centimeters, those big robes still are exactly the same shape as the smaller robes, and that one of them is a strip of cloth, and that strip of cloth that's sewn into it would, in the time of the Buddha, come from the charnel ground. And so when the Buddha left this group of monks in the charnel ground for contemplating death and decay, when he came back a couple of months later, the group had thinned out. Not so many people were there. And so the first idea is, wow, these people got tired of that and left. But the story is that they got tired of it and committed suicide. And so the Buddha didn't continue to recommend this as a contemplation where you just sit and watch a body decompose, because it's kind of morbid. And so we can, in fact, use this as a tool to recognize that we're all going to go through old age, sickness, and death. It happens to everybody. Or, in fact, if you're lucky, it happens. Some people don't get old and sick, they die young. And let us hope that that's not what happens to you, that you don't have to get yourself killed in a war or get blown up by a grenade or have a noisy neighbor blow you away or have a cop shoot you or something like that, that you can live into old age. And so that's something that we don't generally look forward to. Now, generally, what we can think of about this is that the body itself is not particularly beautiful, except when we add sexual attraction to it. But generally, the body is not beautiful. That, in fact, you could say that some celebrities, a few of them, and some that work out and do a lot of beautification, they're trying to make the body beautiful, because in general, the body is not. It's not beautiful. That, in fact, we kind of worship the youth. We like a nice cuddly little puppy or a kitten or maybe a teddy bear or something like this, because we like babiness or youth, and that actually comes from our mothering instinct or our nesting instinct. So it's instinctual that we are attracted to the youth. But once that attraction, once the youth grows up, now the human body becomes, let us say, not attractive. And possibly the most unbeautiful person in the world is the one you see in the mirror, because we judge ourselves. We don't like who we are. And that I would also say that the body attributes that one particular person has, when they see other people having that same body attribute, they don't like it. They think it's ugly. An example of that is fat people hate fat people. Skinny people hate skinny people. I find that quite amusing. And so even if the guy hates fat people, he may not be fat himself, but he still has fat issues. He doesn't want to be fat. He wants to be thin. And so this is something that we find quite amusing, uh, in the sense that we can look at this, contemplate it, and recognize that we, in fact, do not like the human body. It's not beautiful, it's just ordinary. But the reason for that is because the mind itself is not beautiful. It's just ordinary. And we find faults, we find ticks, we find scratches and itches and all kinds of things that keep the body from being just a body, just okay. And so, really, what the Buddha decided to do then was to stop this kind of meditation where people were contemplating old age, sickness, and death, but he did mention it regularly throughout his life. An example of that is that a young, beautiful woman came for some business or another, and that the monks told, or the Buddha told the monks, don't look at her as if she were beautiful here. Look at her as if she is going to grow old. And that I've heard this before. In fact, I think it's something about Thai people, but I've heard it from other cultures. And that is, if you want to see what you're getting when you get married, look at the girl's mother. And if you want to see what you're going to have, look at the girl's grandmother, because that's what you're going to be getting. Because the wife looks beautiful maybe right now, but she's going to change. She's going to get old, and in fact, we don't like getting old. Very few of us here actually enjoy getting old. Most people, they want to remain young. Now, the funny part is that young people want to be old, and old people want to be young. No one's actually completely satisfied with the age that they are right now. And so what we can do is we can become familiar with what we look like and let that be okay. That in fact, in the time of the Buddha, mirrors were done with polished metal and they were expensive. And so the Buddha, let us say, put that into the Vinaya of not having mirrors. Well, a monk doesn't really care what he looks like. And so why would he need a mirror? It's only people who are worried about what they look like and want to fix it that would need a mirror. And the way that I would say it is that the monk doesn't care. If you think the monk's ugly, that's your opinion. You're the one who has to look at him. The monk doesn't have to look at himself. He's okay. But always, this ugliness that we see in the human body is very much like the statement of beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So is ugliness. It's in the mind of the people who are looking. And so we're already okay if we could only accept that. Now, one of the issues that goes on with this is not only do we think that our own body is not good enough, but we also see ugliness everywhere. We see ugliness in the other people. We see ugliness in the society. We see people being angry, being violent, being sick, all kinds of things. And we don't like it, not recognizing that we were the ones who created those feelings. And so the real practice that we should be engaged in is gladdening the mind, brightening the mind, making the mind, let us say, wholesome and integrated. Now, one person mentioned that he feels like that he's constantly in a war with himself, that sometimes he wants this and sometimes he wants that, and then he wants this again, and then he wants that. And that a good way of describing that is with Eric Burns' version of Sigmund Freud's uh, personality states. The superego, ego, and id is kind of confusing, but Eric Burns simplified that by bringing it using the words child, superego, and ego. Now, for some reason, the word ego has gotten really, really twisted around. That in Eric Burns' version of parent, adult, and child, the adult is the better part. It's the parent ego state, which is referred to by Freud as the superego. Within the context of the teaching of the Buddha, this is referred to as attachments to rites, rules, and rituals, or more than that, all the wouldas, shouldas, couldas, maybes, how things should be, our idealistic things, etc., like that, to where the child ego state, which is more associated with the primitive part of the brain, we would call that the child. Sometimes it's called the reptilian brain, and that's where the feelings are. And so the child goes around feeling, and the parent goes around saying it ought to be like this and ought to be like that, and the child rebels against that. And that often we don't bring the adult into the room. There's no adult inside the mind. There's almost always this conflict between how things should be and how we want them to be. And so, if we can find a way of integrating that, that would be um, a good practice. That in fact, that integration or unification is exactly what the Pali word samadhi means. It means to bring things together. That there is a word that is almost always used for this word samadhi called concentration. But many people confuse that word concentration into trying to put, you know, basically meaning that they take things out. Like frozen concentrated orange juice, they take the liquid out. Concentrated or condensed milk, they take the water out of it, making it. But nobody's going to drink frozen concentrated orange juice. They want to make it whole by putting the water back in. So, if we are in fact making the mind unified and whole, that means that we're going to integrate these various functions of the mind, and in neurologically speaking, that would be the back or the anterior cortex, the temporal lobes or the mammalian brain, and then the frontal lobe. Now, the frontal lobe is what humans have, and none of the other animals have it. If you look at the skull of a monkey or a baboon or a cat or a dog, you'll see that their forehead is sloping. And so humans have this new area of the brain, and that we use it a lot, but not enough and not in the right way. You probably heard someplace or another that humans use the mind only 10% of it. And I would correct that to say, no, we use all of it, but we only use it about 10% of the time. And what we're going to be practicing in Anapanasati, practicing the Eightfold Noble Path, is the combination of bringing that wisdom part of the mind, bringing that frontal cortex, that adult in, and start looking at what's really going on, and then making a change. By gladdening the mind, we often what that means is to nurture the child. Another way of gladdening the mind is by dropping away all of the stuff about the mind that has to do with how things ought to be or how things should be. And we start using it in the sense of what's happening right here, right now. This is the only really place that you can practice. You can't practice into the future. You can only practice what we have right now. And so, the important point is that the supramundane Dhamma of the Buddha is a change model, it's a practice model, and it is a model that changes these various parts of the mind from being at war with each other into bringing them into harmony, bringing them into unity, bringing them into a wholesome state. And we practice this by what is called gladdening the mind or brightening the mind. Now, this gladdening or brightening the mind means that we're changing our attitude, we're changing our mind state. And we do that by having wholesome thinking. If we think wholesomely, we'll begin to have an attitude that's wholesome. And if we change our attitude into everything is okay and everything is fine and all is welcome and everything is all right, and we keep practicing that, then that means that we can start to nurture those parts of us where we revert. When we're not practicing all the time, difficulties will come up, dangers will come up, and we can begin to see that all of that stuff is just mental activity, and that we can say, wow, I can see that. I can see all of those mental activities. Now let's change them. Let's change them into happy, wholesome thoughts. Now, there is an area of psychology, actually, it's quite old, goes back to about the 1970s when psychology was just getting underway in the West, and they were talking about suppression. Now, that somehow has gotten stuck, and that many, many, many young people think about suppressing our thoughts. Basically, what happened was that there was a very famous psychotherapist named Fritz Perls, who had a system of psychotherapy where the therapist and the client would sit each in a chair, and then they would have an empty chair where they would project other people that weren't in the therapy session onto that empty chair. And that the reality is that there's nobody in that chair, but the therapist wanted the client to project their mother or their father or whatever and have a conversation to try to come to some resolution. And often that involves what we call psychological archaeology. That led then to sometimes people would get angry at the chair where no one was there, and they would get angry at their mom, and so they would start pillow bashing. That's when I came into psychology, was when they were in the stage of hitting the chair with the pillow, or maybe they were hitting the chair. They took the chairs away and put fondue or soft furniture around so that people couldn't get hurt. And then they started having encounter groups. And then with the encounter groups came encounter equipment. And there was a whole industry that built up. This was actually quite a fad that was going on in those days. But what they found out is that people were letting their anger out in the therapy session, thinking that they had good um, reason to do so, to get it out, to stop suppressing it. And then what happened is that the domestic violence went up because people would let their anger out. They would get angry. They would go home and take it out on other people. And so this system fell apart. They stopped building. The companies that were building the equipment went out of business because the therapists weren't buying the batons and the boxing gloves and all of that kind of stuff for feeling safe, because they found that bringing up negative feelings was not helpful. That in fact it was the worst thing that they could do. And so psychotherapy was actually in the process of changing that, but that whole system somehow has gotten stuck into the culture, and you still hear people using the word suppression, to where really the word that we want to use instead is change. Instead of having angry thoughts and angry thoughts and angry thoughts, and not acting upon them, it's better to change those angry thoughts into happy, wholesome thoughts, rather than keeping the thoughts going. Now, it's also much better, if you have anger, don't act on it, suppress it. That's in fact the right thing to do, is to suppress these bad feelings. But a more important way of handling them, instead of suppressing them by not acting on them, for instance, if you feel like crying, you don't have to cry, but you don't have to keep feeling like you want to cry. What you can do instead is gladden your mind, cheer yourself up, saying everything is okay, not a problem in the world. And so we keep wanting to do this as your practice. Now, one of the things that I have seen on the Discord group is a number of people will come on and they'll hear the jingle or the language that people are using, and they'll start using that language, but they're not practicing. They use the word wholesome thoughts, but they're not practicing wholesome thoughts. And that what we need to remember is that this teaching of the Buddha, this change model, is an active practice model. We have to practice. We have to practice gladdening the mind. We have to practice changing the mind from the unwholesome thoughts to the wholesome thoughts. And when do we do this? Well, in the beginning, we need to get away from it all. We need to get into seclusion. We need to take a moment on our own, by ourselves, getting away from other people, so that we can actually practice being okay. to practice. So when we have a thought, then we can change it. Now, it's very, very common that what happens to a new person is that they'll practice correctly for the first couple of seconds. They'll have the thought, okay, everything is all right, everything is fine. And then they'll have the thought, oh, no, it's not. And then they don't even see that thought. In fact, what they do is that they believe that one and not the practiced one. And so what we have to practice is to see those secondary thoughts come up that tell us what we have been thinking all these many, many years. And instead, continue to practice correctly, to practice changing those thoughts. And so someone will say, oh, I feel satisfied, but they don't really mean it. They just claim it because they've heard that they should be satisfied. And so they say that they're satisfied, to where in fact you can hear it in their or see it in their print that they're saying they're satisfied, but then they'll do a yes but immediately after that. What we need to do instead is practice satisfaction, and satisfaction has a particular quality to it. It may be small, and as we practice, that satisfaction will grow. But if we have a thought, I'm satisfied, but that but, in fact, shows that you're not satisfied. You're just telling yourself a story, I'm unsatisfied. So we actually have to practice being satisfied by gladdening the mind, by actually gladdening the mind. Most people will say, I'm satisfied, when in fact, they're not satisfied at all. They're just saying that because they think that that's the right thing to say. And so what happens is people will say, "Oh, I'm satisfied," and then they'll prove that they're wrong, and they'll either do that on Discord or while they're on their meditation cushion or wherever they are walking down the street, and they'll have a thought, "Wow, everything is great," and then they'll say, "Yeah, but this needs to be fixed, and that needs to be fixed." And when we hear that kind of thought, we need to say, "Wait a minute, I see you. Now let's go back and have wholesome thoughts again." That in fact, what we're doing is that we're retraining the mind, we're changing the habit system over and over and over again. We need to start having wholesome, happy thoughts, gladdening the mind, making our attitude into the attitude of a winner rather than the attitude of a victim. Now, we were all born with the attitude of a victim. Every young baby is dependent. No one is born walking down the street with his hands in the air saying, I am the king of the world. A day old? No, they can't even stand up. They can't even use their hands. They have to be fed. And as the child grows from total infancy, they grow into early childhood, and that's where mommy then reinforces their dependency. Often the child will rebel against that. They call it the terrible twos, or the toddler tyrant, where the child is trying to assert himself, but he doesn't make it. He's always, by the age of 3, put back into his place. And then when we get school age, we have to go to school. We have to hold mommy's hand. We have to do what we're told to do. And so this victim's mentality, this victim's attitude gets entrenched. And for most people, it's entrenched for life. And when it's ever pointed out, people will rebel against it. I'm not a victim, where in fact they say it from the victim's mentality. In fact, what they're doing is that they're denying it. They're in a state of delusion. And this is actually what the Buddha refers to as that second noble truth. The real problem in life, the real discomforts and dissatisfactions we have, is because we think that it's different than the way that it actually is. An example of that is that we don't need anything right now. Everything is hunky dory. except that the mind will say, oh, but you need this and you need that and you need this over here. And so we go around wanting, thinking that if we get what we want, we'll be happy. And this is the normal way of our society. And so you'll have all kinds of hucksters and charlatans and business people trying to sell you something so that you'll be satisfied and happy with what they have to sell, but that only lasts a few minutes at best. Almost always buyer's remorse will set in. So what we can do is we can practice. This is the whole story. I have to keep repeating this over and over again, is that we need to practice to come out of our ordinary lifestyle so that we can cheer it up, gladden it up, brighten up the mind. And we practice this over and over and over again. Now, one of the questions that I have heard is, well, what's the difference between joy and happiness? And the answer to that is that those words are just words. What we're talking about is a state of mind and a state of feeling to where we feel all right, we feel okay. Actually, as that feeling is developed as a skill, that feeling okay gets better and better. So you really, really feel on top of the world. You feel great. But that has to be developed. Now, sometimes we'll feel great, but that's generally because of something that happens on the outside. Bhikkhu Buddhadasa talks about it in his little book. It's called Happiness and Hunger, where he points out that most happiness comes from getting our hunger satisfied. We want this, we want that, we want this food, we want that drink, we want that person, we want that house, we want whatever it is that we're wanting. If we get it, then that hunger is satisfied for a short period of time. But that is not the happiness that the Buddha is talking about. The Buddha is talking about a happiness that comes from having no hunger. Now, how do we get ourselves into a state of having no hunger? Is by brightening and gladdening the mind. Rather than sitting there suppressing our bad feelings, we change those feelings. Because if we have unhappy thoughts, if we have unwholesome thoughts, then we'll want something to get rid of those unhappy, unwholesome thoughts. If we have anxiety in the chest or anywhere in the body, even if we don't understand it or see it directly, we still want to change it. We want something to get us out of the bad feeling systems that we're in, and that we'll try anything that society recommends for that, and we'll always get disappointed. That in fact, the right way to handle that is by having wholesome thoughts, gladdening the mind, so that we can gain that habit. But we have to practice it over and over and over again. This is the way that we do it. So, an example going back to what we were talking about before. So, what if the body is ugly? That's all right. It's the mind that makes it ugly in the first place. The body just is body. And so, if we just accept the body as the body and we say, hey, wow, I'm all right, I'm great. Another way of talking about it is that we can nurture. That child inside of us is wanting something. Often it doesn't even know what it wants. It's just in a state of wanting. And so we can gladden the mind basically by nurturing ourselves, by saying, you're okay. You got no problems. You got no place to go. Everything is cool. And let the child in the body relax. That's basically the way to handle this. Just relax. Everything is already okay. But these teachings, as easy as they are to describe, are very hard because it actually is the antithesis of what our society teaches us. Our society teaches us that we've got to go interact with society in order to get our happiness. To where the Buddha says, oh no, you go out there to find your happiness, you wound up getting disappointed, just like everybody else out there is disappointed. That the way to gain happiness is by practicing being happy. The way to gain joy is by practicing being joyful. Wow, this is all right. Oh, wow, I like this. Everything is cool. Everything is fine. We need to keep practicing those kind of thoughts over and over again until they settle in, until they become part of our feeling, until they become part of our attitude. And when our attitude is everything is fine, not a worry in the world, then there's nothing to suppress because nothing comes up that needs suppression. Then, in fact, it's quite okay to let your joy out. But in fact, this is the way that we can begin to deal with others, is deal with them joyfully, deal with them happily, deal with them with a smile. That in fact, that's probably the best way of educating someone to the Dhamma is by smiling at them. Because if you start teaching the Dhamma, if they're not ready for it, they'll disagree with you. We see a lot of disagreement with the actual Dhamma on the Discord because people have joined, and we should have been giving them smiles and say, you're okay, no problem, everything is fine, all you need to do is practice being happy. But oh no, we'll get into dialogue with them, and we'll point out where they're wrong, and oh, they don't like to be shown where they're wrong. So let's not deal with people by telling them how they're wrong. Let's keep putting on, this is how we do it, over and over and over again. Let everything be okay. Because when people come on to our groups, they're going to come onto our groups from an ordinary state of mind. Even some of them come on saying, well, I've been practicing Zen for 10 years, or I've been practicing meditation for 15 years. You can't tell me anything. And the answer to that is, well, congratulations. But here we're practicing something differently. Here we're practicing actually gaining value from those times of sitting. Rather than putting in the hours, we're putting in the joy. And so instead of getting hours out of it, we're getting joy out of it because that's what we're putting in. You've heard the old computer science story about GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. But if we're putting in joy, joy in, joy out, happiness in, happiness out. So let's practice being happy. Let's practice gladdening the mind, gladdening in, gladdening out. This is the way that we practice, but we have to practice daily. Not just daily, but we have to practice throughout the day. Some people will say, oh, I need to meditate for an hour a day. Well, by the hour, you're probably gotten the mind that's dull, and this is not an invaluable practice at all. A much better thing to do is every 5 minutes, you say, take a breath and say, wow, I'm okay. Or maybe once an hour, you take 5 minutes and say, wow, for the next 5 minutes, everything is okay, not a problem in the world. And so we continue to practice over and over whenever we remember. That's why remembering is such an important quality. The word, by the way, is sati, and you'll see it often. The satipatthana, the anapanasati, right Aryan sati, noble sati, sati that's a unremitting sati that's in the Sambhojana. All over the place, we see this word sati, and what it basically means is to remember to come back to this present moment, look at what the mind is doing, and gladdening the mind. The mind can always be improved. Let's have some happy thoughts. Everything is okay. If we keep practicing like this, that will become the new habit of the mind. But if you are in the sitting of questioning, like, well, what about this and what about that part of meditation? That's just from an old habit. It's better not to have a bunch of questions but rather, when you see those questionings, you can see that as the hindrance of doubt, saying, wow, I see those questionings. Let me stop questioning and take a deep breath and smile and gladden the mind. And then those questions and things will come up again. Yeah, but what about this and what about that? What about all of those people over there? The answer is those people over there are not here right now. Wow, what a relief it is. They're not here. They're not here. I don't have to think about them right now. Everything is already okay. This is the practice, and the results will be that the mind is balanced, is wholesome. The wouldas, shouldas, and couldas fall away. We're no longer attached to how things should be, and we can feel comfortable and happy. And every time that you see that you're not comfortable and happy, that's the time to remember to practice, to come out of that, to come back into having a wholesome, happy mind right here, right now, over and over again. So we started with, okay, Agnes, go right ahead.
There it was. Yeah, I have a question. Actually, when you were talking about that, that we want things from the outside, and we don't actually make our minds happy on the inside, but unless we get something from the outside. I started thinking my problem a long time ago, before I came. Well, it's still there, but it was a lot about I did not want to have anything. I didn't really want to live sometimes. So it was kind of the opposite. Is that the same thing, or is it something else?
Well, instead of saying, a lot of people go around wanting things in order to be happy. You're going around in that state so long ago, going around not liking anything. But the point is that it's the same ignorance. People will want stuff and not see that they're wanting, and you're uh, seeing how terrible things are, but we don't see that, oh, I'm making that up. That was my thought, and I don't have to have that thought. I can change that thought. And so you didn't remember to look at that negative stuff to see that you were just making that up.
Hmm. Okay.
And so now you have a better habit of making up stuff that's worth having in the mind.
Yeah. Thank you.
Other people will go around making up dangers. Oh, that's dangerous, and this is dangerous. Basically, what that danger means is that the mind is full of fear. And often the body has fear in it too, anxiety, stress, because we see the dangers. And if we can see that, oh, I'm just seeing dangers that are not there. Wow, I'm glad that I saw that. I'm glad that I'm making that up. Oh, wow, everything is okay. And then we can nurture that child. You're okay. Everything is fine. There's really no dangers at all. Other people will have a habit of being angry. What? You can't tell me anything. But they don't see that either. They don't see that anger. They don't see that boastfulness. They don't see that bullying that they're doing. And because they don't see it, they're thinking that, oh, well, my state is good. How dare you criticize me? Rather than, wait a minute, I can have better thoughts than this. Let me say everything is all right, everything is fine. And so each one of us will have a favorite bad habit.
Yeah. And that
Everybody, go ahead.
Sorry. Uh, yeah. Actually, that was my kind of what's it called? I couldn't get out of it because I did not know how to do it. It's not until I came to you and your teaching and all of that, I started learning there is a way out of this. But it was a dead end for me, everything, because I knew there was something with me, but I didn't know what was wrong and what to do, and all of these things that I learned through the Buddha's teaching, and yeah.
Right. So one thing to keep in mind is that the stuff doesn't belong to me. I'm just the messenger. I'm just delivering a message. The message is old. The message has been around for 2,500 years, and luckily I was able to receive the message from some very senior, beautiful monks, Achan Bhikkhu Buddhadasa and Achan Po, and now Achan Po has asked me to come out and be the messenger. So don't see me as a guru. Don't see me as someone
No,
special. Don't
I
say
don't.
it, oh, this is Bhikkhu Buddha, this is Dhammarato's teaching, because this is not mine. I'm
It's your.
merely relaying.
I
And
see your happiness and the joy and all of that, and I wanted that. I wanted to know how to
I
get there.
congratulate you. You found it. I see you joyful most of the time now. Isn't that amazing? Yes,
Yes.
if you keep
It,
practicing, that's what you'll become. You'll become joyful.
it's kind of incredible. It's amazing, yeah, because I never thought it could ever end. Well, come to this for me. So that's beautiful. Yeah.
So everybody here, remember Agnes, my old friend. She has gotten the Dhamma, and that she can be your friend too. And so she can remind you, don't see the danger. See, everything is okay. Don't see, oh, I've been meditating for 15 years and I'm a bully here. See that and say, wait a minute, let's just be happy. I see that in many, many other groups that they get off into, oh, I need to learn the Dhamma and I need more Dhamma. I need more books. I need to read that, this, and the other thing. And really, all we need to do is to remember to see what's happening within our own mind. Because only by seeing what you're doing can you make a change to it. And that's all there really is to the teaching of the Buddha. It's a change model and it's a practice model to practice changing, practice over and over again to keep changing. And so that's basically all there is to it. So when you see yourself in the mirror and see, oh, I need makeup, or oh, I need face paint, or oh, I need a shave, we can turn that mirror around and say, hey, I'm all right. I don't need anything. Wow, it's okay right now. Everything is all right. Everything is fine. And that's the way that we begin to practice over and over and over again. So,
Yeah. Also,
Diedrich, go ahead, Agnes.
again. Yeah. And this is kind of frustrating because there has been a period lately. I just couldn't get out of it. It was like I need to investigate this more, and I kind of got back to that old thing. And uh, what do you say about that? Are there times when one kind of needs to get some insight around something be able to
Oh,
move on?
wanting an insight you don't have. Yes,
Okay, okay,
asking why questions.
okay.
And
Yeah,
we can
right.
say, oh, I'm asking a why question right now. Never mind. I can just relax. I don't have to have the answer to that question. I can just be happy.
Thank you.
Don't worry. Be happy. Don't worry about this, that, and the other thing. Don't worry about I want insights or any of that kind of stuff. This is really it's such a direct thing, and yet most students will come asking those kind of questions. Yeah, but what about this and what about that? And while they're asking those what about isms, they're not practicing. The right thing to do is say, oh, none of that matters. Let me just be okay right now. Everything is all right. Let's gladden the mind, brighten the mind. Everything is great. Everything is all right. So,
Thank you
Deidre,
so much.
yeah. Deidre, do you have something to say?
Yeah, well, very interesting talk so far. I was wondering, do you have any tips on how to raise your children with that free mind, with like the feeling of happiness is
All
from
right.
me,
Every time you
and then
enjoy,
still need to set some boundaries because it has to be safe.
right. Okay. But when you do, set them joyfully. Always address them with a smile. Everything is good. Everything is fine. Don't fuss at them in the sense of, oh, you did that wrong and I want you to do it right. You can say, look at what you're doing. Is that beneficial to you? Ask some questions. Basically, that would be the way to handle it in all cases, is to ask them questions. Get them to see what a beautiful mom you are, with what a beautiful smile.
So you have a daughter, don't you?
Yes.
Do you teach her not to get into view when you are giving talks, or you're doing what you're doing now? Don't disturb you.
Actually, I don't spend much time correcting her or teaching her anything. I give her that kind of freedom to let
And it
her.
works out.
Right, and one of the things that I see with her is that she's joyful and happy and almost excited most of the time. And that's all I ever wanted to teach her,
To be happy.
to be happy.
Yeah,
And it
got
looks
that.
like that she's doing that quite a lot.
Mm, mm. Yeah, and then we can get into the system like going to school or not, blah blah blah. But we'll do
Well,
that another time.
whenever I have never told her, oh, you have to go to school. Every time that I talk to her about school, I don't even tell her you got to make good grades. I always tell her, have a good day, enjoy your day, be happy at school. Because if she's happy at school, whatever happens at school is going to be in her favor. I'm not interested in her being the smartest kid on the block. Her life basically is taken care of forever. Whether she ever gets a job or not is not important.
As long
What's
as you get
important
the
is
job
that
inside.
she's happy. Happy people do okay.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Uh-huh. So, Timo, what do you think?
There are questions in the chat, I think. So I don't have anything urgent. I let them, pull up the questions.
All right, Char, what do you think? So, Amrit, are you there? Yeah, Amrit's there. What do you think,
Yeah,
Amrit?
I'm here. Dhammarato. Yes, practicing happiness and practicing joy. This is what I'm doing right now, and this is what I will do the whole day long. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
that's all we need. If you're joyful and happy and you're satisfied, what else do you need? So,
More
Ben,
joy.
what do you think?
Awesome. It's great to hang out. Great to see you all. And yeah, just every time you can remember to be happy, just be happy.
And
Nothing much to
practice.
it. Yeah.
Practice. There's an old joke about that from my music days where the guy was walking, a young man walking down the street in New York City, kind of lost and looking around, and he saw an old graying Jewish rabbi. And he went up to the rabbi and says, how do I find Carnegie Hall? How do I get to Carnegie Hall? And the old Jew looked at him like this, and he saw that violin case he was carrying, and he says, practice. Practice. That's how you find Carnegie Hall. So that's the way that we do it. You can find what you're looking for if you practice correctly. So if you've got the music, Carnegie Hall will find you. If my daughter's got joy and got happiness, whatever she needs will find her. Jose, what do you think?
Well, I see that as an invitation to have much less things in the mind and, well, just be happy.
I didn't quite catch that. Mikey, can you help me with what he said?
I only heard the second part, which was it sounds like there's an invitation to be happy.
Yeah.
Yes. Don't worry, be happy. If you think about it, the entire teachings of the Buddha is wrapped up in those 4 words. Don't worry, be happy. Don't try to solve any problems. You don't have any problems. Any problems that you have, you made those up. If you can take anything happily, you'll enjoy what you're doing, even if you don't solve the problem. And remember, you made up the problem. You wanted things to be in your particular favor. Like the laptop died and we want to bring it back to life. And so we're tearing into it and doing this, that, and the other. And it's still not working. Can you be happy? That's the important point. Doesn't matter what you want. Question is, whatever it is, let's be happy. Let's be joyful.
I have another question too, though.
All right.
By suppression, you mean compartmentalization, right?
No.
Or do you mean
I mean
suppression?
throwing out. I mean taking out your trash. Take it out. Whenever you see it come into the mind, just throw it out. Don't compartmentalizing. That's just keeping it in there someplace. Suppressing it, that means you're keeping it in there someplace. No, the Buddha's model is a change model. It's taking out the trash model.
So not suppression.
It's not suppression.
I appreciate your energy. I enjoyed spending time with you guys today.
And any suppression that you do is useful, valuable, and wholesome, because otherwise you're just spreading your shit all over the place. So suppression is a good thing, but let's suppress it into non-existence by stop having those thoughts that you're trying to suppress.
Can I ask a follow-up on that? Unless, well, go finish your thoughts, sorry.
Go ahead. I hear you, Dominic.
Well, I'm well. How are you? Been a long time. Um, I mean, well, certainly I would agree that like explosive outward expressions of anger would certainly be like a bad idea, right? But if a situation, let's say you're in a situation that's consistently kind of like maybe not like annoying to you, right? I feel like what helps you get out of the situation, potentially into seclusion, or just to leave the situation, is like a something like anger, right? It's like a sort of protective energy, uh, and I think I could maybe I'm just not misunderstanding, but I could see how someone could easily be like, oh well, okay, the situation is bothering me, but what I should do is I should just kind of not act on it and try and just make myself feel good. Everything's okay, but really they are just like suppressing or repressing the anger, and then they end up kind of exploding a little bit further down the line because they didn't actually act on uh, the emotion earlier to get themselves out of it, and then they make it worse by getting into some useless conflict.
All right. Well, remember that you made it up from the beginning and you continuing to make it up. So if you're saying the situation itself is detrimental for you, perhaps you should be in a different situation. Now, I don't mean a different time and a different place with different people. I'm talking about your own particular situation, that you made that up. Your disappointments is yours. If you're around people who are also disappointed, you don't have to buy into their disappointment. If you're around angry people, you don't have to be angry back. You've got a choice on what you're doing. And wisdom would say, if you consistently find yourself in a situation that is unwholesome for you, change that situation, get out of that situation, go back into seclusion. Maybe all you need to do is just to close your eyes and take a deep breath and stop listening to the crap that you're hearing. Or you can take a break. You can go to the bathroom. You can walk away and go get a drink of water. Get yourself into a good state over and over and over again. And if you've got a job that's unhealthy for you, after you get your own mind straightened out, see, a lot of people will hate their job and they'll think that I'm advising them to quit a job that you hate. And what I'm saying is, oh no, you change your hate into joy. And if you find then that in a joyful situation, the job is not wholesome, then leave the job, either temporarily in the moment or for a longer period of time. But you are always responsible for how you feel in this moment. And so practice well when you're not in that situation so that you can bring in joy. And when you're in a joyful state over and over and over again, then when you walk into unwholesome areas, you can do that knowing that this is a dangerous place for you. Maybe you shouldn't go into that place. Let us say that these guys are talking politics at the water cooler. Don't go to the water cooler where they're talking politics. Stay away from them.
Yeah, I think I get it, but isn't the impulse to stay away from them, doesn't that come from what I guess you would call anger, but just felt in a more kind of applicable?
Stay away from your anger. And when you're staying away from them, that means that you're protecting yourself by being wholesome, by not putting yourself into dangerous situations that you see as dangerous. Why keep putting yourself into other people's danger?
Okay, I'll have to think about that one. But thank you. It's helpful.
This is not about thinking. Please understand, this whole talk has been about something else. This is not to be thought about. This is not to be mulled over. This is not to be investigated like the way that you're talking about it. This is to be able to practice right here, right now. I see that unwholesome thought that I have. I see the anger that I have inside. Let me take a deep breath and breathe that out and be happy right now, wherever I am. This is not something to think about. That's one of the major problems with people practicing the Dhamma, is they want to get it right before they start practicing. So don't think about it. Don't try to understand it. Just start practicing being happy. Practice over and over again. Every thought you have, this is a good thought. This is okay. Not a problem in the world. That's a basic point about the practice, is you can't figure it out. It's to be practiced.
I find that if the mind's in a satisfied, wholesome state, then you can just see when a situation's unwholesome. You don't have to get annoyed or angry. You can just see if something's not beneficial and just go somewhere else. Like that, there doesn't have to be anger to be able to leave an unwholesome situation. Just wisdom to recognize it, and then recognize you've got a choice to stay there or to leave, and just leave.
Thank you, Ben. That was very good. You know, One of the ways of talking about it is that old hands who have been doing this for many, many years, the answer is obviously easy peasy. Just don't buy into it. However, most young people, most beginners who have never really practiced the Dhamma, that's too easy for them. They're not ready for that. And so we need young practitioners like you, Ben, to go in and point out that they can change. And so I very much appreciate Ben and Ivan and others that are on this forum that can, in fact, make some changes and help other people to start making changes. They don't have to figure it out first. There's nothing to figure out. That we start off with practice. We don't start off in doubt. That's, in fact, a hindrance to practice. That's why they call it a hindrance. Trying to figure it out means that the mind is full of doubt, not sure. So let's see that doubt. Oh, I'm not sure how to practice. Never mind. I don't need to know how to practice. I just need to start practicing having happy, wholesome thoughts. Nurture myself. Everything is okay. Everything is fine. Not a worry in the world. So thanks for asking that question, Dominic. May you start practicing and stop asking questions. If you start practicing, you'll see the results and you don't need any questions. You'll be saying like Agnes, oh, wow, this stuff works.
Oh, thanks.
So, Timo, do you have anything to say?
Maybe at first someone was addressing you in the chat, so I don't know if they don't want to get on the audio. Yeah, maybe I just read his what he said. He said, Dhammarato, I've been in isolation for 2 to 3 years now to learn to feel all right by myself. Now I stay away from the whole world like a coward. So he wants.
So
He
he's
doesn't
having
want to be
cowardly
Buddhist
thought.
forever, but he's afraid, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've seen that before. That means that his practice has not been correct. That if he has the correct practice is not that of a coward. The correct practice is that of a champion. I can do this. Not a problem in the world. So, if you've been practicing in seclusion for a long, long time and now you're afraid of going out, that only means that you haven't been practicing. Time to start practicing now. Everything is okay now, and when you go out to the world, everything is okay now. If you practice in seclusion now and then you say, oh, I don't want to go out because I'll be afraid, then you're not practicing. I'm okay now. And if you practice long enough, if you actually develop the skill of everything really is okay, that begins to have a wow property to it. Wow, I really am okay. I can handle it. Doesn't matter what they throw at me. I can handle it. I can handle IRS agents. I can handle cops. I can handle priests. I can handle ministers. Baptist ministers, by the way, are about the most difficult to practice with, and I can handle them. I can handle presidents. I can handle anybody. Why? Basically because I don't compare myself to any of them. Don't compare yourself to others. And therefore, there's nothing to be afraid of. They can't hurt you. Only you can hurt yourself. And when you figure out how to stop hurting yourself, those people can't hurt you. So thank you for that question. I don't know who asked it. Krishna, do you have any last things to say?
Yes. Well, I don't have a good example, but What I sometimes see when I tell people everything's okay, everything's fine, they say that that's ignorance. What do you say about when people say that?
I say, ha, ha, ha. Yes, I know that. I know that. That is actually the common way of people thinking. But I have choice to be happy. And you're having a choice saying that that's just delusional. And so you maintain your happiness. In fact, what they're trying to do when they tell you that, they're trying to steal your happiness. Don't let them steal it. You really are okay, Krishna. Doesn't matter what they have to say to you. The whole world is full of ignorant people. More than 99% of the people that you'll meet out there are unhappy, miserable people who think that you're happy, you're delusional. They are correct because they can see how unhappy the whole world is. It's an unhappy place. Grow up, man. It's a terrible place. How dare you be happy in front of all of these miserable, unhappy people? Your choice. You can buy into that.
I can guess that maybe some people would feel guilty for.
Yeah, but we've already gotten rid of our guilt. We're not guilty for anything.
Feeling.
We're the boss here. We're the champion. We own this place. Have that winner's attitude. The Buddha called himself, and actually, I don't think he called himself that, but other people did. They called him a lion. There was no getting to him. You become the lion. You become invincible. Nobody can touch you. An example of that is somebody came to him all angry about something or another, a Brahmin. And after the guy vented and told how angry he is and all of that, then the Buddha says, well, what if you had a dinner party? And you put out all the food and all the guests. Some of them came and some of them didn't. But those guests who came didn't eat any of your food. So now who owns the food? And the guy who was really angry said, well, I must own the food because nobody ate it. I says, yep, that's exactly what's happened. You came here to serve me your anger, and I didn't eat any of it. And so it's yours. It's your anger. And so that's the way that you can handle other people's anger. Yeah, that's their anger. I don't have to eat it. Agnes, you got your hand up.
Oh, it's up again. Yeah, what you said before about most people being quite miserable and all of that. That's exactly how I used to see the world. I just wait until you see how miserable the world actually is. Exactly that. And that turned around for me because I thought people who were happy, I thought they were faking or something. They are just pretending, or it's not really like. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so this has been the big turnaround for me to start seeing this, and the what you were talking about at the start about see it for how it is, and kind of being with that and seeing, and I didn't get that at first. Now I see it can be like that. It can be miserable. It can be exactly whatever. I don't have to react to that. I can just see it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I was saying before is don't ask questions about this, just practice it, because your questions are always going to be answered by those old habits. Let's go ahead and
Absolutely. And that's kind of sometimes even now when I get into this, I stopped doing the why. As soon as I started asking why, I knew no, I'm never going to get an answer. But still now I had a period I wanted, well, that seems interesting and I want to get into and learn more about it. And at the end, I didn't learn anything, just that it was that old habit. And why did I do that kind of thing? So, yeah. So I'm so happy to be back to the ignorance of not knowing like that I used to do before. Yeah.
yes. Everybody, please remember this is a practice model. This is a change model. This is not a solution to your questions. This is not a
Exactly.
question and answer system. This is a change model. Change all of those questions into, dog, I don't need to know any of that stuff. And so when people ask to read a book, what books do I recommend? I recommend the only book you need to read and really, really read it is the book between your ears. Start looking at that questioning mind and say, hot dog, I don't have to ask those questions. Or you can have thoughts like, look at all the stuff I know. And then you can say, hot dog, I don't need to know any of that stuff to be happy. That's the real choice, is that you don't need to know anything. You don't need to know why all of those people are miserable. You don't know why. You don't have to know why you're miserable. You don't have to do psychological archaeology. There's no need for it. All we need to do is change. That in fact, you can see that that's happened with electronics. In the really, really old days, when you had a television, that the televisions would go on the fritz quite often, and so we wound up having an entire industry. Every little town had a TV repair shop. Vast sums of money and problems and all of this education was going on, and nowadays we don't do that. We just say, oh, well, the laptop is broken. Let's just get another laptop. Let's out with the old and in with the new. Never mind, we don't have to diagnose the problem. We just throw it out. This is the way that we're doing it here. We don't have to diagnose. We don't have to look into it to see where the dukkha came from, what kind of dukkha it is, or any of those kind of questions. That's Mahasi method, is to dwell in how bad things are. Maybe you'll figure it out. But so what if you figure it out? You're still miserable. Why do you bother to want to figure things out? Because that's not going to change you. We need to stop trying to figure it out and start just making a change. That's all there is to it. But boy, that is so hard to learn from our society. And so that's why we keep putting it out over and over and over again. No need to figure it out. No need to go do those weird practices like asoba meditations. There's really no reason to go to an autopsy. That you already know you're going to die. Everybody here knows they're going to die. Can you die happily? Think about that. If you can die happily, then can't you live happily too? And let's not worry about dying. Let's just watch it. I mean, it's a wonderful show. At least that's what I've been told. I'm looking forward to it. I want to see that show. I've never seen that one before. I've seen Hello Dolly and I've seen Carousel and I've seen all kinds of shows, but I have never seen my own death. I've actually been in the presence of people dying. I've watched dogs die. I've watched humans die. I want to do it too. Have that attitude. Everything is going to be all right. Don't be afraid of death. Don't say, oh, poor me, I'm going to die. Say, yippee, I'm going to die. Wow, that's great. And so that ends this talk. Ivan, that's your asoba meditation. Yippee, I'm going to die. Yeah, let me edit. Yes,
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay.
Arjun has said in the chat, I have one question. You want to ask it, Arjun?
Yes, I want to ask one question right now. And it
Go
is
ahead.
coming in my mind. So, okay. So sometimes we think about the people who treated us badly or said hurtful things to us in the past. We keep thinking that we should have done something differently in that situation. We even create imaginary scenarios in our mind that what we could have said, how we could have responded, or how we could have made them feel regret. So my question is that how can we deal with such thoughts and move on?
All right. First off, that happened in the past. You screwed it up. No need to dwell on it anymore. Let that in the past. Right now, we're going to resolve I can be happy right now. And you keep being happy right now, then when you find yourself in a situation where people don't want you to be happy, you can still maintain that happiness, that joy, that feeling of okayness, that feeling of safe and secure. They can't hurt you. That feeling of comfortableness. They can't make you uncomfortable. Only you can do that. And you don't choose to do that anymore. You're going to be okay. But you have to practice this because you've already been in the habit, a long, long habit of feeling not okay. And you've been wallowing in those bad feelings. Now it's the time to change those feelings and keep changing them and keep changing them so that nothing's going to bother you anymore. Can't get to you. Can't touch me. Now, actually, that leads into the question of self. If you don't have a self, how in the world can they hit it? And if you
Okay,
do
but
have a
my
self,
mind,
can you play dodgeball? Just get out of the way.
but I
They
always
miss
see the
you.
flashbacks in my mind again and again. I mean, it gets hard to deal with them. I mean, with those
No, you
flashbacks.
said it was hard, doesn't make it hard. You said that. You're the one who's making it hard. It's not hard, it's easy. So when you catch yourself saying it's hard, you can say, aha, I see that hard. And it's not hard, it's easy. You're the one who's making that shit up that it's hard. It's not hard, it's easy. Can you change that hard right now from it's hard into, oh, no, it's easy. I can do this. Change your attitude from, oh, poor me, into, I've got this. Not hard. Only you make it hard. That's your old habit of making it hard.
And the
Thank you so
practice
much.
isn't living with them, as you said, the because they're not there constantly, but every time you see them come up, that's when you see them and throw them out and say, actually, everything's fine now. Nothing to it, like. And then the more you do it, the less they come back, and then they just poof and stop coming back. It's a practice, remember. Do it over and over again.
It's an easy practice. All we have to do is get in the habit of practicing. The practice of remembering over and over again when those unwholesome thoughts like it's hard come up, we can say, aha, I see that, and it's not hard. I made it hard because I said it was hard. But it's not hard. All right. Does anybody else have anything to say? How about you, Paul?
Nothing else. Just it's all about repetition. Just wanted to say that. Yeah.
Okay. How about Amal?
Everything is okay here, Dhammarato. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad you hear it. Don't worry.
I'm
Be
glad.
happy. All right. So let's go ahead and finish this call. Mikey, can you take it home?
Yeah, thank you, friends, for being here today. I did want to mention something. We've been having some new members show up to the server, and and some of them have been not quite clear on what we're all about. And I think Dhammarato has laid it out really well today, which is this is a group that gets together to remind each other to practice what the Buddha taught. We're not so much here to argue or get in fights or bicker with one another, but to remind each other in a friendly and happy way, hey, things are all right. Let's take it easy. Let's take a breath and enjoy. And if there's new people you'd like to invite to Dhamma Friends and to these calls, the encouragement here would be to make really good friends with them. Don't just send out invitations to just anyone. Make friends with them first on a and have a genuine friendship there, and that'll make it easier for them to be friends with others here as well. I also wanted to say we've been having more and more women on the calls, and I've been really happy to see that. And I'd like to encourage that the women here make really good friends with each other, so we can make this a more welcoming community for new women that come in here too. So yeah, thank you, friends, for being here today. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mikey. Thank you, Dhammarato.
Thanks.
Dhammarato.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all. Thank you, everybody. It was good to be here.